last 120 years, we have a family gathering in our front yard. And my mother was telling me for the last few years that we ought to have a family reunion again. And I said, Mom, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. But you know what happened? My mother died, and I didn't get around to it. So the very next year, we had the family reunion in the front yard. So these are verses for Michaila, and the first song that we'll play will be in memory of her, because it was one of her favorites. It's not the artist that she loved the most, but it was the best I could come up with. But it's the same song. And then we'll play one of her favorite songs, and then we'll begin talking to the young people here on the front row, and we might help her, about my family's history in the Ozark Mountains in Missouri. Michaila Altshcul. Matushka Michaila, of blessed memory, July 13th. First line. Verses for our sister. Your hospitality showed the depth of your faith. In the image of St. Michael, like him, you were visited by holiness. Your visitor, an angel of the Lord, gave you solace with his light. Oh, memorable Michaila of Kansas City. Pray to Christ our God to save our soul. Michaila Altshcul, Matushka Michaila Altshcul, was born in Garland City, Arkansas, and spent her childhood in Texarkana, Texas. Later she moved to Kansas City, where she lived a long and difficult life. Through her difficulties, she acquired a powerful, overflowing love for people. Even through her 70s, she was a tireless servant for her beloved ones in and around St. Mary's Orthodox Church in Kansas City. It was with simplicity, the simplicity of a little girl, that she served her children all over town. She was known as Grandma, by people who just needed someone to treat them like they were somebody. Her door was always open, and she had a kind, listening ear. She would share wonderful nuggets of Orthodox spirituality and wisdom and understanding in a plain, old-time country manner. She drank deeply of the wisdom of the church and of her ancestors. Many folks today can tell you what a saint said, chapter and verse. She, however, would tell you what they meant. Father Moses, I didn't write this for myself, so I'm speaking in the second person in this sentence. Father Moses related that she once spoke to him about not being afraid or ashamed to share how the Lord has brought you a mighty long way and delivered you from certain disasters. Because a person's testimony might give hope to others. As Matushka lay on her deathbed, an angel of light appeared to her and told her that it was not time for her to die, but that she would have a few more things to share. She went to church one last time and said to those gathered what we needed to do. We needed to love one another, not just with our lips, is a quote. Not just with our lips, but with our hearts, our loving kindness, and our actions. She added that we needed to evangelize our families. Matushka's love shone more brilliantly than ever. Everyone who encountered this love firsthand is fully persuaded of her sanctity. Many have attested to her holiness. Matushka Michaila fell asleep in the Lord on 13th, 2012. Matushka, Michaila, continue to pray to Christ our God to save us. So, this is a loving legacy. And this is the song she used to always, she loved this group called the Mighty Clouds of Joy. And I'm sure some of you have heard of it. If you haven't heard of the Mighty Clouds of Joy, go to your record store or CD store as soon as possible and get a CD by the Mighty Clouds of Joy. So this is one of her songs, and it's called "Take It to the Lord in Prayer." Take your burden to the Lord.
If this world come you with a hope, all of its silver children, all is gold, and you have to get along with me goodbye. Just remember in God's word how He feeds all the little birds, and take your burdens home to heaven and just leave it there. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, He will surely bring you out. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, the Lord will surely bring you out. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If your body suffers pain and your health children you can't regain, just remember, God in heaven answers prayer. Jesus knows the pain you feel. God can save, my Lord can heal. If you will only take in your burden, just leave it there. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, the Lord will surely bring you out. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, He will surely bring you out. Just take your burden to the Lord and leave it there.
All right. We could go on forever, but we have to stop.
Children
Bye.
singing bye.
Anyway, some modern people don't care for this group. They say that they are too theatrical. They're from the 30s, from the 20s and 30s. They say they were too theatrical. But they didn't realize that they also were the first black group or singing group to sing at the White House. They appeared at the White House and sang on the White House lawn in 1929. The Golden Gate Quartet. And they sang on the White House lawn and everybody loved them. They appeared in motion pictures. They appeared in Cabin in the Sky, which was a great motion picture directed by Vincent Minnelli, which had a star-studded black cast from Ethel Waters to Lena Horne, and Bojangles, and all manner of people who were actors from their day. And so she and I always had a little bit of special love and care for these guys. And we remember that some people would say, we don't really care for them. And I think they didn't care for them because they didn't go to the same church that she and I went to when we were young. Well, as you know, my name is Father Moses Berry, Chilton. And I was born, as the great Missouri poet Eugene Fields said, I was born between the dark and the daylight, when the night was beginning to lower. I was born in the house that my great-grandparents built in 1873. My grandmother raised me, the daughter of a slave, in that house. My grandfather was born and raised in that house. My father was born and raised in that house. I was born and raised in that house. And now I'm raising my children there. I came from a long line of folks from the Ozarks. They call them Ozarkians. It's a funny word. I came from a long line of folks from the Ozarks. And we grew up knowing one thing. And since we're focusing on Michaila, we grew up knowing one thing, that we had no hope and no consolation in this world outside of our Lord Jesus Christ. In that song that we just heard, there was a verse that said, if you have to get along with meager fare. What that means is, if you don't have very much, if you don't even have enough maybe sometimes to eat, and you wonder what's going to happen to you, you wonder how you're going to pay your bills, you wonder about what will become of you. Jesus Christ spoke about you. He spoke about you, and he said, don't worry. Don't worry. Because if you do worry, it won't help you out anyway. Because God is aware of your situation. She grew up knowing this, and I grew up knowing this. And we both, along the way, somewhere, forgot it and then had to learn it again. We forgot it, and I'll tell you how I forgot it. We used to tell this story, but Michaila is the one that finally got me, she convinced me that I needed to start telling people this certain part of my life, but I was ashamed to tell them. Because I thought, if I tell them this, what will they think of me? They will say, we don't want anything to do with him. Have you ever wondered what other people might think about you? And you didn't want them to know about your heartache and your brokenheartedness? Well, don't worry. Jesus came, as he said, to heal the brokenhearted. Michaila told me that I ought to tell my story about my life when I was young. I met a man today here at the conference, and that man, I knew something about him just from a glance, just from a sideways glance. We spoke and we talked about several things as we walked to the dining hall this morning. And I said, you've been to penitentiary. Actually, what I said, I've been to penitentiary. And he said, so have I. And we began to talk. And the only reason that we should be ashamed of the things that have happened to us is if we are not redeemed. If we do not hope in the Lord. If we don't believe without him, then we have no hope and no consolation. Except one more thing, this month. I turned 21 in the Missouri State Penitentiary in a 4.5-foot cell with a 12-foot ceiling and no windows. I was there because I was guilty, not like St. Paul, who was thrown into jail because he, because he testified concerning our Lord Jesus Christ, but I did because I lived a base life. No matter what you have done, the Lord can deliver you. Even if you're in the midst of your own troubles, the Lord can deliver you if you, as it said in the song, take it to Him in prayer. I was in the penitentiary at a certain time before this modern day. I like to make a little joke like this because it tickled my children. As before this modern day prison reform, when there were no televisions in there, and you just had to, they would throw stuff under the door. They actually did. Your food under the door, and then they would pour things on you that is too vile to mention through the bars. And I remember them one night, and Michaila asked me so many times. She said, "Tell me that story again about that guy." I remember one night that I was in I was in this cell in the solitary confinement, just a young boy, not older, younger than many of you, and just a little bit older than you teenage kids. And they beat this man. They beat him all night long, and I could see under my door through the little slot what they were doing to him. And I said, "Oh Jesus, help me, save me. Oh my God, have mercy upon me. Deliver me from this. I have made the best prayer that night." And as I say, I have not made a better prayer before then, or a better prayer since then. It was sincere. I said, "Help me." So cry out to the Lord in your despair. Cry out to Him. I tell you, He can save you. The next morning, the jailers came there, and they said, "Put on your clothes. You're going home." And I thought, oh my goodness, I know these guys. They would take people out of the cells and take them down the hallway, and they would beat them up. So I said, "I'm going to stay in here," and they said, "Please stay." And so I just decided that I would take a chance, and I walked down this hall. They have all these doors, all these corridors, these bars that slam shut. And that's the reason for it took me years to have anything to do with prison ministry. Because every time I would hear the sound of those doors going closed, I became a little bit, I don't know, I kind of lost my mind. There's a proper word for it. It doesn't come to me right now. It's not paranoid. It was something else. What is it? Probably that's what it is. That's what it was. So I went down the hall and I said, "I know what they're going to do. They're going to kill. They're going to shoot. Because they like to shoot people."